Rotterdam versus Robbie. Rob versus Roddy. It could get confusing, guys. It could. In the top right, as the orange Protoss, it is the one and only Rotterdam. Excluding the fact that he shares a name with a country, a state? I'm actually not sure. In the bottom left, a city. A city. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word city. I was like thinking of like province and like county and just... Anyways, in the bottom left, as the blue Protoss, it is Robbie. I'm going to pretend that I just woke up. I've actually been awake since 9, but that's going to be my excuse. So yeah, excuse the fact that he shares a name with the city. He's definitely the one and only. So he participated in the last 2 Cheesadelphia qualifiers, but the Cheesadelphia qualifiers have not been a cakewalk. Well, for maybe the first couple people. Like, for Clem, it was maybe a little bit easy, but... Rotterdam is playing in 2 different qualifiers right now, so he would prefer not to be forced to play as long as possible. So anyways. I was talking with Robbie while we were waiting, and he was like, in theory, I'm better than Roddy, but, Roddy has a weird playstyle with the Stargates, and we already see it's starting off weird by not going for a wall off. Doesn't seem to care. Different build order as well, just in general. So, actually, I didn't even pay attention to what numbers this build was, but it should come down to the similar thing, right? 2 gateways, cybernetics core. Roddy does have a bit more gas. Got that first gas geyser sooner. And you probably will see that typical Stargate play that we stereotype Roddy to always play, because that's actually true. He actually does. But the big difference is that he doesn't have a wall off, and the other big difference is that he continues to play with Stargate. You know, there's plenty of Stargate openers that are, I guess, okay to do all the time in PvP. But to go for Phoenix, like to consistently produce Phoenix, that's a Roddy thing. Not many people do that. It can come back in the meta, I guess I should clarify. Like, it's not like he is the only person who does that. But it doesn't really come back in the meta too often. And to be honest, a lot of people who try and bring it back, I mean, just don't seem to be very good at it. Now, I'm talking about personal experience because we haven't really seen it in professional play so often. There was a point in time about 4 or 5 years ago, where for some reason Phoenix vs. Phoenix was actually super popular. But that was also back when a time when you wouldn't just have the game ended by either proxies, which is the current meme, or you wouldn't have the game end by the +2 attack on the 3rd base, which is basically all PvP is what it boils down to. You would actually have super long PvP. So the point is, like, that was a different stage of Legacy of the Void. Point being, it is a weirder style. Robbie says he feels that it could be the thing that messes him up, but he also said that he's theoretically better than Roddy. So it's all about not being thrown off guard. Rotterdam will be playing from Europe, so he's got to worry about that ping. Don't know what it's like for him right now, but he is changing servers even between the qualifiers. He's playing in the European Homestay Cup qualifier and the Cheesadelphia qualifier, which is default North America, but default North America preference to the person playing. So since Roddy's Europe, it's actually on the East Coast server, which is at least a little bit better than the alternative, because Robbie actually might be on the West Coast. I'm not sure. I'm actually really not sure. No, actually, he might be one of the guys on the East Coast. I mean, Cheesadelphia has been a great tournament in the past. It's one of the few NA tournaments that's happening, offline lands. But it's also great because it does have a lot of, there are a lot of the pros from NA on the East Coast, and the ones on the West Coast are kind of, well, left out to dry, I suppose. Like Vendetta. Okay, there's an ambulance outside of my apartment right now. I was like, what the hell is that sound? Anyways. Wow. So I was going to talk about Robbie's build and how he was building nothing but stalkers. And then Roddy just taps out. So I didn't expect that. I had all this exposition. Okay, then. So I guess on that point, there are a couple of things, well, maybe one big thing actually, what we just saw there, that kind of like hard counter Roddy. Roddy can have difficulty on ladder when people know his account. But it's not like he always taps out like that, so I hesitate to use the word hard counter. But there are things that, like, he really struggles with his style of play. And, I guess when he saw that it was that, because I didn't, like, what, one Phoenix died, maybe? Like, that was an instant tap out. This time we're going to pay real close attention to the actual build orders. The bottom right, it is Roddy. Top left, it is Robbie on Simulacrum. We'll be playing the next WoW expansion. Considering I haven't really played WoW retail in like 5 years, seems unlikely. But it's a fair question to ask, because a lot of people are asking for, you know, time sync video games in these trying times. But my answer is no. I will not be playing it. Yeah. Kind of spoopy to have ambulance outside. Hopefully everything's okay. Hopefully they won't bust down my door and say, like, COVID police, we heard that you went outside yesterday. And I'm gonna be like, no, I swear I didn't. I don't think that's a thing. We're actually allowed to go outside, so it's definitely not a thing, but we're not allowed to congregate. But, you know, it's very easy for me not to do that because I don't have any friends around here. And certainly not 9 other friends. Because the limit's like 10. Say no more, and you've been doing bad things. Alright. So Roddy, I mean, it also could be that, like, that is a game that he would have tried to, you know, fight the good fight, but because he is in a bit of a time lock here, he just decided, I'm not going to win this. Like, let's just really just tap out. But I really want to pay attention to, like, what happens again. Because if Robbie was so successful with that, like, why not just do it again? Rotterdam has been doing the same build as last game. Right? Slightly off kilter than the typical PvP opener. Robbie once again goes for a pylon block, quote unquote, in the middle of the probe line. This is, like, an annoying thing, right? So most of the time we see a pylon block here to both maybe block out the probe for building a pylon on the low ground, but also to see what is produced from the gateways, right? That's one of the most important things about PvP. But the pylon here, you might be like, well, like, it, you know, it's possible it won't even see what's popping out of the gateways. Well, Roddy can't really let this just be up and running. What if Robbie is, like, chrono boosting his warp gate not just once, but 2 times, or hell, even 3 times, and he doesn't take it seriously, tries to apply some pressure, and the 2 adepts warp in, even slow warp ins. Like, you let 2 adepts into your main base, no matter how they get into the main base, and we all know how catastrophic that is for PvP. So you gotta take it seriously, you gotta show your units. And it does delay any attempt at a move out. Or, in PvP's case, scouting. Since scouting early game can be a very, very big deal. Speaking of which, Roddy did not go for any scout in Robbie's main base, and I guess he didn't do that last game either. Which could have been a big contributor to him just, you know, instantly tapping out. But that is unfortunate for Robbie to lose a stalker like that. He knew that there were stalker openers from Roddy, but just kind of caught a little off guard, and once again caught a little off guard, perhaps. Now, with the Warp Prism, you would theoretically win this, but, yeah. You really don't want to let the Warp Prism either die in the process of saving some of your stalkers, or take a lot of damage, because this is pretty critical to his push. He'll replace the units with 3 gateways, but you only have 1 robo to replace the Warp Prism, and it's definitely the most important part of the push, I would say. So, a little bit awkward on both accounts. I mean, Robbie does save his Warp Prism. It is a little bit injured, but then he took out a decent number of units of his opponent as well. 3 for 3 stalkers, actually. Even trade right there. So, Roddy does need to take this seriously, but the good news is Roddy did not go for the same opener as last game, where he just instantly tapped out when Robbie did this. He went for a Blink opener, actually. So he's not going to Nexus. It wasn't going to be possible here, but he's going to have Blink. And that should give him the upper hand. I mean, Robbie has a type of Blink with the Warp Prism, but it is also an injured Warp Prism, and Roddy should have some reinforcements, while Robbie does not anymore. That Warp Prism snipe pretty big. If it costs you literally your entire army to get the Warp Prism snipe, it is not worth it, sure. But if it costs you 1 or 2 or even 3 units, then it probably is, because that really just shuts down the pressure. Even if Robbie had a backup pylon for slow warp-ins, it is such a drastic difference. Not to mention the lack of micro, right, that the warp prism can sometimes add to, especially if Rotterdam's going to be the one with micro. Especially if he's going to have blink. Robbie could at least have tried having fake blink. He's replacing the warp prism and getting his own Twilight Council. It's still one base to one base, but with blink, yeah, Robbie's going to lose his units. The blink has been revealed. Robbie might have been clued into it. Well, now we have, well, duh, the observer got in here. So I don't know what he scouted beforehand, but he might have been clued into it by the type of defense, by the lack of a Stargate, right, by the lack of seeing a Robo, and just how many stalkers are being warped in, but regardless, he knows about it now. The instant recall was nice and fortunate that he had enough energy to do so as well, so he at least saves more than what he would have had he just continued to go across the map. Would have. Would have isn't a sentence. He said that it was due to lag that he tapped out of the last game. So yeah, apparently people are saying that, like, the latency to NA is, like, really atrocious now from Korea and Europe. Because it like, some days are worse than others. Like, always there's a little bit of flux there. Depends on your internet as well. But, generally, if you're East Coast to Europe, it's okay. But apparently it's, like, spiking, like, 3 times as much. Which is weird. Not even spiking. Like, actually just 3 times as much. Well, this ends up being a little bit awkward. Robbie does have charge finished up to actually a cinematic finishing up that upgrade right as the engagement happened. And the Zealots do help a little bit, but that was a lot of stalkers there from Robbie, so they can try and take the fight, but a Guardian Shield helping out a lot as well from Robbie. Blink is not done for Robbie, but the actual just moving back of his stalkers not working out so poorly here. He even barely saves that last one to the charge out warp-ins. He found the Robo. He absolutely wants to grab it. That is so many resources put into the Robo and the Nexus back at home, by the way, that it really does make sense that Robbie should be able to take this fight. If he hadn't taken this fight, it actually started to be bullied back to his natural, and that Robo continues to be able to pump out Immortals. That is bad. That is just bad. But at least Robbie has that much going for him. He takes out the Robo, which gives an opportunity to maybe up your Immortal count. But that's not what Robbie's thinking. Robbie's actually doing pretty dedicated one-base attack here. Even got some Zealots on the left side, catching the Stalkers by surprise. And because they blinked away from the Zealots, they weren't able to blink away from the Stalkers. Robbie going for a bit of a surround, even the Warp Prism coming in, and Rotterdam does not have enough units to actually kill that Warp Prism. Some Zealots come in to help out, and Rotterdam could always go back to his main or natural. I think there's a couple of shield batteries there to help, but that was some pretty cool army positioning from Robbie, and he does save his Warp Prism so he can continue the aggression, but perhaps more importantly, this is the point I was trying to get to, with the snipe on the Robo, Robbie instantly slapped down a Dark Shrine. Either banking on Rotterdam not being able to afford a Robo, not thinking about building a Robo, because, hey, it's a Blink Stalker fight, right? Like, just all make Blink Stalkers. Or that the timing of the Robo would not be good enough anyways. Now, Robbie blinks forward and takes out that Warp Prism, but it's like what I said in the first battle of the day. If you lose your entire army for that snipe, then it isn't actually worth it. In this case, it actually might still be a lot of the Stalkers of Robbie are very, very low. Those Zealots were getting a lot of shots in before they actually got kited away from. But that was a severe loss of units. Was it the worthwhile trade? I mean, possibly, but it might not even matter, Like, the DTs are coming in, and Robbie literally has nothing to defend against CTs. He has not thought about this at all, and that should be GG. Honestly, like, the DTs come in and Robbie just taps out. But even if the DTs weren't coming in, Robbie is currently doubling the army supply, or was for a second there. Good focus fire on the Stalkers, but the charge lots are no joke. They're going to guarantee at least one hit before they get focus fire down. In this case, more than one hit, more than a couple. A lot of the weak Stalkers even being dropped and killed. This actually turned around pretty badly on Robbie, but it has to do a lot with just how low his Stalkers had gotten from how many fights they were a part of. But there's the DTs, and that is game. It is. It's just game. He's actually even holding on to them. GG. Yep. Robbie with the proxy Robo risk didn't pay off in multiple ways. Didn't even get up and running. Didn't produce anything, I feel. If it had produced an observer first, that actually probably would have finished, and this game would be still going on. But of course, it went for an immortal first because he was trying to apply pressure. But yeah, doesn't work as an attack and then gets killed, so it's not available for the defense.